Welcome to another episode of Video Store Rejects. This is a podcast where we discuss directors' filmographies and our favorite film franchises. I'm your host, Cody House. We have a returning guest, Sarah Ragsdale. Welcome back, Sarah.
Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. Before we enter the House of Gucci, the first question of the day is what's your overall thoughts or vibes on Ridley Scott as a filmmaker?
I've never been like a huge fan of Ridley Scott overall. I mean the sci-fi things that he does very well. I mean, I well, it's hard to like fawn over him as I'm not like the biggest fan, but I do respect his work overall.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that makes sense. Especially his films are kind of all over the place too,
Hmm.
from various degrees of quality.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. I think he does have some really great films, but he
Hmm.
also has some like do you just need a paycheck? Do you want to work?
Right.
And
He's happy to do it.
And through the process of watching all 27 of these movies this past
Hmm.
year, I've come to the conclusion that he made a couple of flops. So he
Hmm.
makes some direct for hire jobs to fund some passion projects. He gets a couple of hits, gets to make a passion project. Passion project doesn't do so well,
Hmm.
and repeat. And this is a movie, I don't know, we'll see how you feel about it, but this is
Hmm.
a movie, I don't think this was a passion project for him.
Well, um, yes and no. From what I read, apparently, because it's based off a book about the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as the book came out, he supposedly bought the rights to make a film version of it pretty early on.
Okay, that is true. He was involved and then backed out, and then at one
Mm-hmm.
point Martin Scorsese was gonna make this,
Yeah.
which I'm wondering, because there are some vibes here. And I'm like, well, maybe that might have worked better in Scorsese's direction because that's kind of more his wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I, yeah, I don't know if this is a project that maybe or a task he should have undertaken, honestly.
It
um, yeah.
it was almost directed by legendary Chinese. Well, he may not be Chinese, so forgive me, but I know he's an Asian filmmaker, Wong Kar-wai.
Oh, I
Yeah.
don't know.
And I wonder if Scorsese was involved when DiCaprio was attached to play the
Probably, but I
as
don't think DiCaprio would have been able to pull it off. I honestly think the cast was great across the board.
so
Um,
you're okay with Jared Leto's Super
well,
Mario voice.
I do think Jared Leto is a good actor, but that choice aside, um, for the most, everybody else I feel is pretty well cast in the movie. Um, the accents overall were not where they needed to be. Um, especially like actually, I would say at least Jared Leto's accent maintained throughout. Halfway through, Jeremy Irons just quit.
I don't even remember him trying to do an accent. Does
Oh,
he have an accent?
at the very beginning, he's trying, but it just stops towards the end. It's
Maybe he
very
was
no,
just like, it's not working. I'm
it's
just gonna be
not
Jeremy
working. Yeah,
Irons.
yeah.
Well, originally it was supposed to be Robert De Niro. I doubt
Mhm.
De Niro would have done an accent, but at least it would have made more of a casting choice since he actually is Italian.
Well, I think if it was the Italian accent, De Niro probably would have attempted it. But other than that, he doesn't do accents.
Because then it would have been De Niro and Pacino in a movie together again.
Mhm.
They would have had their little scene together.
Well, yeah, one of the things I was reading is that, like, Ridley Scott specifically was trying to do a Godfather homage with the film. And that if he had cast De Niro, it would have been too obvious that he was doing that. But,
yeah,
I don't know.
There is that rise and fall and everything that happens in The Godfather. So I do see the comparisons there. And were you just fascinated by because you wanted to do this movie, I think, before the movie came out.
Yeah. Well, the idea of what this movie could have been, I was very excited for. I thought Lady Gaga was very good in A Star Is Born. I was ready to see her second big motion picture. They made it the trailer. Let me just put a pause here. The trailer for this movie is phenomenal. I wish we got that movie. So yeah, I was very excited. I was hoping for more drama, more about the fashion of Gucci, even a little bit more about the actual history from the Gucci family. We got a lot about cows. Yeah, I was very excited to do this prior to having seen it.
Yeah, it is a very well cut trailer, and some people like really love this movie, but I'm kind of in vein of like what most of the negative reviews were for this movie. And I'm like, this movie either needs to be about 50% more banana pants, or this movie needs to be like a legit drama.
Yeah. Or it's both of those things. I read one thing that supposedly they were trying to do commedia dell'arte tropes within this. And I didn't get that. The only person who gave something close to that was Jared Leto. And then that made Jared Leto's choices make more sense. But when nobody else is doing it, it was just like, the F was that.
Exactly. He comes off being crazy instead of like being over the top, which I mean, like, he knows, like, I'm not a fan of Jared Leto, but he knows, like, if I'm like overacting, then like I'm gonna get noticed one way or the other.
Right. But now I'm wondering if that was Ridley Scott's choice to tell him to go that route. That's why he made such harsh, weird choices with it. And they didn't do nobody else got that memo, I think.
No, and in fact, Al Pacino only has one scene where he kind of Al Pacinos it, right? There's only one scene where he's like screaming.
The scenes with him and Jared Leto, I actually did enjoy those. Like, he matched Leto's energy, so then those scenes worked. You know what I mean? But overall, yeah, I don't know. I feel this movie missed the mark overall.
I agree, and I think the first act is okay. At least the meeting between Adam Driver and Lady Gaga.
The love story moments are actually very kind of sweet and endearing.
But then once we get to the rest of the family, it kind of starts going downhill, and I get less and less interested in what's happening.
Yeah, very, very much so. And there's some, because I was hoping not. I mean, because I think he was assassinated in like early 90s, like 93 or 94, I think. So that was on the younger end, so I don't remember when that took place. but
Yeah.
like that sort of like thing similar to the Versace assassination, things like that, like that kind of the real life, like money, power coming from nothing, building up, kind of like especially in the fashion world, storyline really appealed to me. And it just seemed like this movie didn't really like hit the high notes it needed to for the audience it was supposedly geared towards.
Mm-hmm. But yet this movie did pretty well financially for what it cost to make, and I don't know if it's the Lady Gaga of it all that got people to go see it.
Probably the Lady Gaga. There was probably another whole sect of people who went just to hear whatever Jared Leto was going to do. And I think they ended up probably cutting their budget because they had to like put a pause on filming during the pandemic at one point, and so they got a bunch of the editing done during that time. So it probably probably saved the back end a little bit on it.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that because he did this with The Last Duel came out last year. He did two movies came out, and that one got delayed because of COVID. I didn't realize that but that makes sense. This came out in 2021, but I think one was supposed to come out the year before.
Yeah, I think The Last Duel was supposed to come out the year before.
That's wild that Adam Driver is in both of these movies.
Well, that's
too.
One of the things I read, like when he was like on set for Last Duel, like doing his costume fitting, that's when Ridley Scott just looked and was like, "Hey, I have a script I want you to read." And it was for House of Gucci, which if you look at photos of the actual couple, like Adam Driver does seem very well cast for it, and as does Lady Gaga. Like they look a lot like them. They clearly had chemistry between the two of them.
Well, apparently Adam Driver's not done being Italian because he's going to be a Michael Mann's Ferrari movie playing Ferrari.
We're doing another Ferrari movie?
Well, this one's just all about Ferrari. It's not about the other stuff. So, this one's more about Ferrari, and it's Adam Driver. But yeah, I don't buy DiCaprio because I don't think he could do an Italian accent. The other guy that was considered for this was Christian Bale at one point.
No. I'm not a Christian Bale fan. I'm sorry. No, thank you.
And then their backup, if they couldn't get Adam Driver, was Chris Evans, Captain America.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Chris Evans as an actor overall.
I do too, but I don't know if
I don't think he would have been right for that at all. Like if you Google a picture of him, like no, doesn't look like Chris Evans, doesn't look like DiCaprio. Like, come on.
And then Robert Pattinson was considered at one point in the stages of this movie, which maybe
still, I think
he's only 2 years younger than Adam Driver.
But he still looks younger.
Okay.
He's a vampire. They don't age. You know.
I don't think Adam Driver's played a vampire, so okay.
No.
Not yet. Then Angelina Jolie was attached to this for a while with DiCaprio. And then Penelope Cruz at one point.
Penelope Cruz wouldn't have been bad, I think.
And then they just went with some brunette girls, Anne Hathaway, Marion Cotillard, and Natalie Portman. And then even Margot Robbie was thrown in there, which that would have just been Wolf of Wall Street again.
Margot Robbie was probably when other people were going to be threatened.
I was like, if she was attached when Scorsese was involved, I was like, oh, it's just Wolf of Wall Street.
It's just Wolf Part 2, set in Europe.
And Selma Hayek is apparently married to someone in the Gucci family, or
yeah. Okay, I will say one of my favorite people in this whole film was Selma Hayek. I didn't realize she was in it, and I was like, oh, we got Selma Hayek. Oh, she playing the Miss Cleo to the Gucci family. Okay, I'm intrigued again. I'm very interested now.
Yeah, see, I think that's where the movie kind of gets crazy, but it's not crazy enough for me to be like, oh man, this movie's wild. Like,
Right? Yeah, like it's just enough to like, oh yes, somebody needs guidance, and she like they could have even played it up more to show like that she was just like telling her what she wanted to hear so that she would like clearly fund her and her house full of cats that we didn't see enough of. We could hear them, but we didn't see them, and I'm disappointed.
the one good thing I will say about Jared Leto's overall involvement in this movie is the makeup. Like, if you hadn't told me that was Jared Leto in the role, I wouldn't know that was Jared Leto.
Right? No, it was very good. There was only a few moments where like when you see his hair, like when him and Al Pacino are hugging, and you see his hair next to real hair, you're like, oh, that is a wig. What little hair he did have, but yeah.
But you said you like their performances, because when I'm watching and I'm like, he's doing this Super Mario voice in front of Al Pacino, who's actually Italian.
Well, I did like I liked the chemistry they had, like that father-son dynamic, especially at the end when his character gets out of prison and they're both just kind of like downtrodden in the airport where he's on the phone and he's like, hey, I'm here. And like, I'm on the phone. Wait a minute. Like his dad's been in he sent his father to jail. He's been in there for like what? Like less than a year and a half or something like that. And like it's gonna be this and then they can't find the car in the parking garage. Like, oh, we're standing right next to it the whole time. Like the kind of like back and forth, like bumbling son, downtrodden, depressed father chemistry. I think that all worked really well together.
I can see that. I think it's definitely a better dynamic than the Jeremy Irons, Adam Driver stuff.
Yeah. The only thing that worked on that side was the coldness of their relationship to make it seem like, well, no wonder he's gonna cut you off real quick like that.
Yeah, Jeremy Irons does okay. He does get like the I'm a rich person who doesn't care about other people's feelings other than my own, and if you don't want to play ball, well then you can just not be involved.
Oh yeah, the finest example of that is when he played the head of the Medici family in the TV series. Not his first time playing an Italian.
Okay, so it's not new for Jeremy Irons.
It's not new. He didn't do an accent in that one though. Nobody did. That was one of those shows where it's like the drama was very good. But it's like we're in Italy, but everybody's British for some reason.
Well, I mean, that's like in all those World War II movies too, right? For some reason, these Nazis have really good English accents.
Right. How did they do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess why all the people that work for the Empire have a British accent too. It's just the easiest thing to adopt. But that's also just George Lucas hiring actors where he's filming.
Right. No, I saw supposedly the scene at the beginning, the Klimt painting, was supposed to be a nod to the Gucci family's fascist times because all the Nazis stole that art early on during the war.
Yeah, and you mentioned like them not getting much into the Gucci family. Like there's a whole family tree of characters that like we don't even know about.
Yeah, they make it seem like there's just the two brothers that are in charge. This is an Italian family. There's more than two children in that family.
Yeah, apparently there were 6.
Yeah, they left a lot of people out of this story, including like the Patrizia and him had 2 daughters, but they only showed one of them. And so it was all very just like, why are you just... It actually made it... I felt that took away from her character because it's like, it was one of those weird things. Like, I couldn't get a read on if we were supposed to. I couldn't tell what direction Ridley Scott wanted us to feel for Patrizia. If she was a gold digger and we were supposed to believe that of her from the beginning, or if no, she was really in love with him. And it kind of like, it's not like it was like I don't feel like it was done intentionally that way to leave us guessing the whole time. It just felt like he stayed very middle of the road and didn't make a definitive choice with it.
Yeah, and you could say that about this whole movie. It just feels middle of the road, no definitive choice on what kind of story we're gonna tell. You know, I heard some people praising Lady Gaga's performance, other people saying it feels like I'm making a pizza.
Yeah, I mean, the accent wasn't bad. I actually, towards the end, it felt like she was just starting to mimic Selma Hayek's accent a little bit. Which, I mean, it's not an Italian accent, but it was a decent version of a Selma Hayek accent. But I don't think her performance overall was bad. Like I said, the chemistry between her and Adam Driver early on was very sweet, very endearing. It even the choices she made towards the later half of the movie, I didn't dislike. I just wish the movie made those choices make more sense.
It again, this is probably a story they could have done as a mini series in like an 8 or 10 episode, overarching the whole family and this whole thing, because it's like, okay, he doesn't care about the empire, but she's marrying him because he's a Gucci, and that's not just money, but power and names. And then let's get involved with your family and the business. Oh, well, now we're going to take the business over from your uncle. And, oh, but now I'm in trouble with the law. I don't want to deal with you anymore because you're crazy. And I'm just going to deal with the family. Apparently, Gaga was so committed, though, she would not speak to the actor who played the other woman when they weren't filming.
I can understand that. And this is like this. Trying to gather my thoughts. I don't want to like excuse just like people behaving that way on set. You know, like. I don't feel she went full Jared Leto with it, but
no, she wasn't like crippling to the bathroom, making the crew wait for hours, which I think Patton Oswalt does a very good assumption of like why people, there's no excuse for that behavior when you're like an in-depth role. He's like, you know, Toni Collette was on a show called The United States of Terror, where she had to play a character with like multiple different personalities, and he's like, she's the nicest person on set. Like she's like, if you're doing that off when you're not filming, he's like, you're just being a dick. That has nothing to do with the process of your art. You can shut it on and off. And I understand some people have to get in the zone.
Yeah.
But when you're not filming, you don't need to be in the zone.
Right. And yes, and I completely agree with all of that. But I could see why, with this being her second like major motion picture after A Star Is Born, like coming out of the gate pretty hot. Like I think she wanted to commit a little bit harder to the role, especially it being something a little more outside of her natural like range and register and everything. So I won't fault her for trying to like having never gone immersively into a character like that before, wanting to try and maintain that longer. I could understand for this second time doing a big role like that, you know?
And for sure, there's a lot of pressure, especially if you're a performer outside of the movie or television and you get into acting. They're always got the knives out for you and like being like, what are you even doing in this? You're not an actor. Yeah, so I can get that. And apparently she really wanted her Italian accent to be authentic because, you know, she did that album with Tony Bennett. So I guess they're buddies. weird BFFs there, but whatever. And she
Mhm.
wanted to pay respect to Tony Bennett and say, I'm not trying to be offensive.
Right.
But yeah, I think she does an okay job. I
Mhm.
know there for a while this thing, they were like, is she gonna get an Oscar nomination again? Of course, the only Oscar nomination this movie ended up getting was makeup.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
Costuming it could have, but I can't remember. It wouldn't have won, but a nomination probably would have been deserved for it.
That is one thing I learned from watching this movie is I didn't know fashion designer Tom Ford, one, ever worked for Gucci, or two, was from Texas.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things like I wish I could say I knew more about the designing house of Gucci beforehand. When I didn't, but I was hoping to have learned a lot more than I did because of that, you know? Like a very like kind of already spoke about it a little bit, but not exclusively. The Ryan Murphy Versace miniseries that he did. Like we got a lot more. I mean, it was a mini series style format, so we got a lot more details about the people, the places, the designing house itself, and things like that. That I'd wish that House of Gucci would have done, or kind of like mirrored a little bit more. But then, I mean, you have two different kind of people looking at it. Like Ryan Murphy for something like that, like the the fashion industry and the characters that come with it was what he wanted to focus on for that miniseries, as well as the sensationalization of his death and things like that. Which is what I was kind of hoping for something along those lines with House of Gucci as well. But with Ridley Scott's viewpoint of it, it was very, one of the things I took away from this was like, this was a very analytical film that didn't really tell me anything. And I was like, how is that a thing?
Which, that's fine for a different type of story we're telling, but for this, yeah, we need, like, yeah, why don't give us something about the family, about the fashion industry, because this is a movie about, you know, one of the biggest names in fashion, even now that it's a corporate conglomerate company now. But
yeah.
And even the death scene, which that may be how it really went down, not that dramatic, but that's not very sensational either. And the guy was like horrible hit. It's like he just kind of bumbled it, which he probably was, because you know that they. It's not like they knew professional killers. It's like they went to the quote unquote. Well, I don't think Craigslist is much of a thing anymore. Like I guess they went to Wish to get a hitman.
Well, it was like some like family friend of Selma Hayek's character.
Yeah.
It's like this guy. So yeah, everything was just, and I mean, maybe it really was that boring of a story, but then why are we making that story if that's the case? Or if you're going to take liberties to make things more interesting, which they did, or to help flow and like go bigger with it. If you're gonna commedia dell'arte this, like make Gaga's character a huge, like make those definitive choices. Like she is a hard gold digger. I didn't get that from her, you know?
Yeah, like you really don't see that. Like there's a few scenes like her getting upset about finding out about the knockoff purses and stuff, and then her like
Which that could have also just made me feel like she was committed to the family business, you know?
Right.
It was very just middle of the road. Like
and
you could interpret it so many different ways.
Showing her big old ring like our name, because he says my name and she's like our name.
Yeah. I was like, I married this. This is my name now, sweetie. Like it just felt like for the majority of the movie, I didn't read it as like she did it to be a Gucci. She did it to be a part of a bigger, like the family, like that commitment to it, which would have made sense, you know? But I know. The female characters that Ridley Scott has portrayed before are usually very strong, and I felt like he didn't do this one justice in a sense.
Yeah, even the previous film he did to this, despite, the issues people have with it because of the subject matter, it does have a very good female protagonist at the center of the story, even though it's about two dudes battling each other over their grievances.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yeah, the guy directed Alien when she gave us Ellen Ripley, which for many people, that's, the biggest feminist icon character in pop culture. And he directed Thelma and Louise,
Yeah,
So,
I don't know. I don't think any of that should be shouldered on Lady Gaga. The few, from what I know, the few, choices that she made, improvisations and things, were some of the best lines and the most interesting things about this movie. So,
well, apparently she enjoyed working on the movie and worked with, she said she liked working with Ridley Scott, said that he respects and loves artists, unlike some directors who love themselves, which I'm like, haven't you only been in one other movie? So did you take a stab at Bradley Cooper, which that's also a whole other level because he's an actor too, not just a director, and he's like in the movie. So
side note, I do think I would love to see more directing work from Bradley Cooper. I feel like
it's coming. He's playing Leonard Bernstein in the movie Maestro.
Ooh. That should be good.
Yeah. No, I guess they did such a good job when they sang a song together at the Academy Awards. People thought they were screwing in real life.
No, yeah, that was the rumor, I think, for a little bit. But I think that's just, they had just built that connection, and there's also, Bradley Cooper is very mysterious about whether or not he's actually dating someone or not for the longest time. So I'm like, is he? Are they? Whoa.
Actually, I don't even know about any dating drama with him.
Because he keeps it so secretive.
Well,
that's why, if he's at any award shows, he brings his mom and other people to it.
Well, if he is dating, which I'm sure he does, because he is a 47-year-old man that looks like himself, that looks like him. I just hope he makes better adult choices than his counterpart, Mr. Leonardo DiCaprio. Not to take stabs, but I don't know, Leo. You can't keep that up for everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he can. He's rich and famous.
And famous, yeah. Fortunately, he probably will keep that up until they stop. Until either the money runs out or or the looks finally run out,
I mean, Jack Nicholson did it forever, and he did not look anything like DiCaprio. So,
but if you notice, DiCaprio is morphing into a version of Jack Nicholson. Okay. Have you noticed that? You can find side by side photos. You're like, oh, they are kind of looking alike.
I am trying to figure out what else about this movie we should talk about. Or
one other thing I would have liked maybe was a possible different director choice. Not even Scorsese, because I feel like Scorsese would have just focused on the family drama, but one director who I'm not even that big of a fan of as a director, who I think I would have liked to see tackle this, Sofia Coppola.
Yeah, I think there would at least been more in depth of the fashion for the movie, because if there's nothing, she is very good at detail, and her costuming is usually really good. And there would have been more of, at least, even if they were going to go with the approach that Lady Gaga's character is a gold digger, there would have been a more of a turn of where that came from.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette version of House of Gucci.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because there's another popular movie out that is probably going to get Oscar nominations, which baffles me. Not that it's a bad movie, I'm just baffled people love it so much, is Elvis. Sofia Coppola is going to do her own version, which is coming from the point of view of Priscilla.
Ooh. That could be interesting. I would like to see that story. I don't know if I would want Sofia Coppola's version of that story per se, but I could see where it could be, because it would be another like young woman, because Priscilla was pretty young when her and Elvis
14.
got married. Yeah.
Well, not when they got married. I think actually she was 18 when they got married, but they met when she was 14.
Barely 18.
And I think there's like something about like she got to live on the property when she was 16 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Elvis movie kind of like doesn't even really address the age difference.
They never do. The only movie that ever did was the Jerry Lee Lewis story.
Well, I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean,
but you know he was Elvis's cousin, so that shit runs in the family.
Apparently.
Yeah.
But Patricia, the real life Patricia, was disappointed that Lady Gaga did not come and meet her out of respect. Not that she needed her approval or anything, but she was just disappointed by that.
Is she still in prison?
I don't know.
Is she still in prison? I was like, I could understand if she didn't want to go meet her in prison.
Well, I mean, that's another thing too. Like, when you play real life people that, and maybe Patricia is not as bad as some other real life despicable people, but when you play a certain person, maybe you don't want to meet them.
Yeah, no, I get that. Like, yeah, because there's a lot of pressure then on you to maintain that identity a little bit, and I don't know.
Had they done Quentin Tarantino's movie before Charles Manson died, I doubt the actor who played Manson would want to go, hey, I'm going to go meet Charles Manson.
Well,
Did
no, Emile Hirsch might have wanted to. I don't know. That guy's funny.
Well, he didn't play Manson. He played...
No, he didn't play Manson. He played the other guy.
He played the boyfriend.
I could picture him playing Manson. Who did play Manson in that?
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sometimes you're just like, no, I don't need to meet them, because
no.
I've got research. I can look it up, you know.
Yeah. Or like even like maybe meet them after the fact, or is like, oh, what did you think? Like maybe.
Or you get like the Robert De Niro, because when they made Goodfellas, which I've heard a funny thing. I didn't realize the guy who wrote Goodfellas was married to Nora Ephron. And Henry Hill kept calling them, and sometimes he was too busy, so Nora Ephron would be on the phone, and that's why Nora Ephron wrote My Blue Heaven, which is basically, I guess, the comedy version. Well, it's like what happens when he goes to the witness protection.
Yes. Oh, I didn't know that. That's great.
But, like, I listened to something with Henry Hill where he talked about, like, well, he wouldn't let me talk to Ray Liotta. Scorsese wouldn't let me talk to Ray Liotta because he never worked with Liotta before. He said, but I could talk to all the other actors. And he said, De Niro would just not leave me alone. It was like, well, how did he hold his cigarette? How did he hold his beer? Like, what? Like, he was like, De Niro had like,
all the questions.
So you could get that too, where like the actor's like, okay, well, you know, and like asking like really personal things that have nothing to do with making the movie.
They're never gonna use. Yeah, no, I could see that. I feel like that that probably just means like maybe Patricia actually was more of a gold digger in real life, like just wanting to have like more involvement with the film overall, probably to get some money from the film.
Oh, apparently Monica Bellucci was almost considered for the Selma Hayek role.
I don't know that name. Who's Monica Bellucci?
She's a French actress. I'm trying to think what you've seen the Matrix movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's the French lady that's married to the French guy when they go to that road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't guess she's really done a lot of big things here in the U.S. because I can't think of like other big roles she's done.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's all a similar look, I guess. But Tom Ford didn't like this movie either.
I could see that because like him now also being a director himself. I
Right? Didn't he do that Colin Firth movie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know why they didn't have Tom Ford direct this. He was the one closest to the story.
Yeah, that would have made more sense, and he would have focused more on the fashion and the history of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And like the deceit and the drama was so underplayed overall that it's just sort of like it wasn't until like they'd gotten past the scene. It was like, oh, so that was what they were doing, because it just seemed like they were talking about an idea, and then it happened.
Yeah, this either needed to be more prestigious, or it needed to have a lot more energy. So it was like there's the energy is not matching, I think, the story they want to tell.
Yeah, like this was if this was a family drama, it was the waspiest like Italian family drama they've ever made. Like you there's so much like we're not going to talk about it. And we're going to sweep everything under the rug and pretend like it's not happening kind of level of like family fighting. I was like, how is this a movie? Like nobody I get that at Christmas. I didn't want to watch that. No, so good.
Well, and I learned apparently probably how Ridley Scott's able to make these movies so fast is apparently he shoots with multiple cameras, like 4 cameras at all the different angles he needs for the scene. So he doesn't, I guess, have to do multiple takes either.
Yeah, which I think the actors like, because yeah, it's half day's work, but it's also like a one and done. Like maybe we can like work through this a little. I don't know. I could see when it comes to editing how great that would be, but then I feel like it's just like less thoughts put into stuff, maybe a little bit more that way.
And that's probably also why he keeps threatening to drop his Napoleon movie at any time on Apple.
Based off this, I don't think I would enjoy that. And there's a lot of good, like you could go so many angles on that Napoleon miniseries too, like just the love story of him and Josephine, the little man drama syndrome that is Napoleon. Like there's so many routes, but I know now watching this, he's not going to definitively choose any of them and just take a little bit of here and there. So it's not going to be worth my time to watch.
Well, you might be right, but also the thing that intrigues me is that's the other, besides sci-fi, I feel like historical dramas are kind of his other wheelhouse. He kind of likes that stuff. It doesn't always work, but he's made quite a few that are actually very good. So it could be good, but also you might be disinterested because of who's the lead actor, who's playing Napoleon.
Who's playing Napoleon?
Joaquin Phoenix.
It's not a bad choice. It's not a first choice.
Well, I don't know if anyone's going to top Ian Holm from Time Bandits.
I know. Oh, of course he was Napoleon. So good at that. Oh. It's like he's played, we had played Napoleon like 3 other times before that. It's like, God, some people are just born for a role,
Oh, he's already a little guy, so.
He's a little guy. Yeah, it's going to be a mini series, you said?
No, it's a movie, probably. It's probably going to be like a 2.5-3 hour movie, I imagine.
I probably won't watch it, honestly.
Well, if you don't have Apple TV, there you go.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything else to say about this movie.
I know.
It's kind of a meh. So
Mm-hmm.
this is our last episode on Ridley Scott, which actually makes sense this time because we didn't do the last Coen Brothers movie as our last episode, but this is our last Ridley Scott movie, and I was thinking Chris would come on, so you
Mm-hmm.
can help if you want, or you can just stroke my ego. Either way. But does this belong in the Hall of Fame of Ridley Scott movies?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
I don't agree either. I think, yeah, nope, it doesn't. So,
No, it could have, but it didn't. No.
so I think there are 4 movies we have to put in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm. We've got.
And
Let's see. Let's look at the list and see what.
well, I think Alien has to go in there.
I definitely.
I think Blade Runner has to go in there just because of its influence on science fiction and pop culture, even if it was not a hit at the time. I think Thelma and
I'm
Louise.
not a big fan of Blade Runner, but people love Blade Runner, so yes.
Well, I'm open for an argument of something you think that should go in there.
Let's see. I mean, I would say Thelma and Louise.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Let's see.
I think Gladiator's got to go in.
Gladiator definitely has to go, even though that was also what I've never made it all the way through Gladiator, because I always fall asleep in it.
So what part do you fall asleep at?
Usually when like the first big like battle scene, honestly. And
okay.
Fun fact, same problem with Blade Runner. It took me like 2 weeks to watch all of Blade Runner because I kept falling asleep in it.
Well, it is a very slow movie. It's a what's that word? It's a slow burn.
It's a
right?
slow burn, yeah.
It kind of needs to be your jam, like, and it's got that jazzy score. I can see, but you kind of have to be like, oh, this is noir, and like, yeah, there's a lot of elements that require you.
Like a lot of those elements, just not that one. But yes, a lot of people love Blade Runner, so it definitely should make the list. Let's see. Have y'all done G.I. Jane yet?
We did G.I. Jane.
Where did y'all stand on G.I. Jane?
Well, we had Jessica on. Jessica still likes the movie.
Mm-hmm.
We said it's got very good performances by Demi Moore and Viggo Mortensen, and we think that maybe in the 90s this felt more like a pro-feminist movie, but it really is dated, and there's like a lot of cringy stuff in it.
Well, I mean, it's been a long time since I revisited, but honestly, like based off women in the military, it probably still holds up to what that experience is, I'm guessing. But I could see like that being on the list, but just like looking through what he has, I'm just like, what do I want on the list?
What would you want?
I thought Prometheus was actually really good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Because that is one of my 2 banana choices that I think should be in here. Because I know some people hate this movie.
Yeah, people hate it, but I really liked the choices of what's his name?
Michael Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender's choices. Yeah, that full like I can't think of anybody's names right now. I hate it when I do this. Like the full like dang it. My brain stopped working. Just going full into that Peter O'Toole Lawrence of Arabia aspect. I thought that was so good and such a strong choice. Like that, him and that character kind of just stole that movie for me. And I thought Charlize Theron was really good in it as well. Like overall, my boyfriend and I, we both went and saw it in the theater. We both really liked Prometheus.
Yeah, actually, my only complaint about Prometheus is the thing that I think everybody else wanted out of the movie is like I didn't need the little xenomorph at the end. Like I was okay with this movie being very loosely connected to the Alien
Yeah, like
universe.
it was like a very, 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 very beginning origin story. Like I knew that going in. I wasn't expecting like aliens right off the bat.
Well, that's what people wanted, and Ridley Scott's like, "Hey, you remember that giant thing that was like in the place with all the alien eggs? I want to know what that guy was up to."
Yeah, I see. Prometheus is what I kind of wanted more of House of Gucci, even a little bit. Like at the beginning, just have like that family saga at the beginning, like the origin of that, and then meld into like building up the family drama of Gucci, and leading into like this gold digger who's trying to stir some stuff up, you know. Um,
So yeah, I'm glad you feel that way because that was one of the two choices I was going to make and be like,
I,
yeah,
I,
I don't know if everyone's on board, but I think these represent Ridley Scott pretty well as far as the
the
like.
the other one I actually really liked it was The Martian.
Oh well, absolutely, The Martian
So
has to go in.
good.
It's
Mhm.
probably his most entertaining movie.
Mhm.
There are parts of it you're like, this is kind of weird for Ridley Scott, but like all the space stuff, you're like, this does kind of give me a little bit of alien vibes, like with the like some of the music and some of the
Mhm.
like the stuff that flashes like the souls
Yes.
and all. Like,
Mhm.
yeah. And it's probably one of Matt Damon's best roles.
Mhm. It's such a
And
good vehicle for him. But I mean, at the time, it was controversial that it was Matt Damon, just because like they're like, you could have put anybody in that role, and you put Matt Damon in it. But I thought he did very good in it, in
I
spite of.
don't know if anyone could do that. And plus it keeps
Well,
up the narrative of us having to save Matt Damon.
yeah. Matt Damon's always in some sort of danger, and someone has to save him.
Yeah, even if it's emotional danger and Robin Williams has to like help him be a sensitive man.
Yes, absolutely. No, yeah, I liked it. I think that at the time people were just like, why couldn't that have been a person of color?
Oh, for sure. And the other
Yeah.
thing they did bad is even though they still kept a person of color in the role, the Chuli, I always mess up his name, the British
Uh,
actor
Chetwa. Now I'm
Edge.
thinking too hard. Chetwell Ejiofor.
Yes. In the book, that character is Indian.
Mm-hmm.
So there was some controversy, but someone's like, well, we still cast a person of color, even though
Yeah, I
it's
was
like,
like,
yeah, his name's Kapoor. Come on, guys.
come on, you guys, come on.
But yeah, I can get that argument because there's plenty of actors of color that could have done that and been
Mhm.
charming. Like you could have put Michael Pena in that role and he would have been
Oh,
charming
he would.
instead of.
I think at the time when it came out, like, I think everyone was like, "Why couldn't John Cho play the Martian?" Like that would have
Yeah,
been
he would have
really
been
fun
good.
casting.
2015, we weren't quite there yet either,
We
though.
weren't,
We
no.
weren't quite there yet. And, Matt Damon's a big name that gets people to be like, all right, we'll invest in this movie because you got Matt
Yeah,
Damon in it.
you
Like,
come Matt Damon.
and he is entertaining in the role.
Mhm.
It's not like they put Mark Wahlberg as the Martian.
I
You
would not have
know,
watched that movie.
I mean, it's not a milk toast white guy. At least this guy
Yeah.
is charming on screen.
Mhm. Yeah, Matt Damon by himself can be charming enough to carry a movie where he's talking to himself the entire time.
Yeah, because like no one's. Well, of course, this is 2000, but no one was like Tom Hanks. What's he doing on that
Tom
island?
Hanks. Ugh, nobody wants that.
Like, yeah, like as long as it's someone who at least has. And I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of Mark Wahlberg's acting. He's
Oh, I'm
only.
not either.
I only think he works if he's like playing a Boston guy.
Oh yeah. Well, also like I'm just not a. I'm surprised Mark Wahlberg's not in jail right now. He should
Oh,
be. Oh, I'm surprised you haven't heard about this from Samantha Grace before, but it's a very well known fact that he almost killed a man, beat him to
oh,
death. Yeah,
I did not know that.
this was
Wow.
pre Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Is this when he was still a rapper? Okay.
This was like right before that. So he was just the
Oh,
brother of a new kid.
this is
But
before he
he was
got
like,
famous.
yeah, this was like
Okay.
he was like some Southie trash, and he like beat a convenience store clerk almost to death.
Oh, wow.
Like put a man in the hospital and
Dang.
didn't serve any jail time for it.
How did he get away with that? It's not like a Matthew Broderick situation where he was already famous.
No, well, his brother was famous, so the family had some money at that time. But
Okay. Dang.
yeah, knowing that about Mark Wahlberg, it's like, oh, we shouldn't support any of them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. It's like watching anything with Mark Wahlberg now, you're like, I can't find him charming knowing he has that like capability and he's never atoned for it. You know? Like anything where he's like a likable guy, I'm like, are you though? Because you're
I don't
probably
know
a
if I've ever
sociopath.
found him charming or likable. I think he just works in certain things. But
Well, I think that's the role he's trying to play in most of the comedies that he does. The only one that actually worked was The Other Guys.
Well, it's because he's playing a cop. Like I can
He's
buy
playing
him
a
as
cop
a cop
who's also like got mental disorders he's not addressing and never does. And then it's like, what's wrong with you? The whole movie, you're like, you're deranged because that's Mark Wahlberg. That's the truest character he's ever played. That and what was the one where he played the abusive boyfriend?
Oh, Fear.
Fear. Yeah, that one.
It's him and Reese Witherspoon.
That one's probably pretty close to the real Mark Wahlberg, I'm assuming.
Wow. But yeah, because he is in a Ridley Scott movie and he's terrible in it. He plays like this hostage negotiator guy in All the Money in the World.
Oh, well, that was another one. All the Money in the World. The miniseries Trust was much better.
Well, because Brendan Fraser is charming.
Well, Brendan Fraser is charming, but also like that was just better storytelling overall. Like All the Money in the World, the only good casting was the recast, I felt.
Well, I thought Michelle Williams was fine.
She's fine, but I don't think she was right for the role. I think she was maybe a little too young for it still.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe so. But yeah, like seeing Christopher Plummer, it's like, well, why did they just cast Christopher Plummer in the first place?
Begin with. Yeah.
Like he's already the age that this guy's supposed to be. Like I don't get it.
Yeah. And the movie overall was inherently flawed based off the lead casting of who they cast. So I wasn't gonna enjoy it anyway.
Well, hats off to Ridley Scott for like reshooting the movie when it's supposed to come out like in like I think 6 weeks from when those allegations came out.
But I mean, it wasn't that was an open secret. He knew that going into he was covering his own butt. I'll say that. Because there is
for sure. Well, he also was in the press tour saying, well, I always wanted Christopher Plummer in the studio. Demanded we cast him.
Nobody has ever demanded casting of that person. I don't know how. No.
Which didn't make any sense because I've seen, they had the trailer out, right? And I've seen like the makeup. I'm like, it looks bad. Like,
it looked terrible.
why are you aging a 50-something-year-old guy to be 80 when you have an 80-year-old guy who can
Yeah,
just
and
come in?
the TV movie version, trust, like it's a TV movie, like, so it's gonna go more in depth anyway for that kind of storytelling, which you need. But you also had Donald Sutherland playing that role, and it he can add that tinge and that sting that you want from like a money grubbing, like
It,
hoard it all kind of character
is
like
it
that.
correct me? I can't remember who played the Michelle Williams. Is it Hilary Swank?
Hilary Swank was in the TV movie version,
Okay, we'll
and
see. That's all good casting there.
it was the TV movie was much better than it had any right to be, and should have gotten more accolades than the movie did.
Oh, I think the only accolade the movie got was Christopher Plummer.
Yeah, Christopher Plummer was the only one, and then it was just stiped in controversy because of the pay scale issues for
Yeah, which I'm watching that and I'm like, how is that a thing? Or does Michelle Williams just have a bad agent? And then there's a scene where she hits him with a phone. I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
she's like, I'm acting and you're not.
right. Now I think Michelle Williams has a pretty good agent. I just think she does this thing that a lot of women probably do and are trying to work harder and not get away, is like just trying to be accommodating because we're having to do something quickly, turn it around. So like, oh, this wasn't an expected budget element of this film, so I'll do it at this cost so we can do this quicker and do all of that. Where you have people like Mark Wahlberg who are like, no, you're paying me this rate to do anything for this. And
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, from what I hear, like he demanded like at least that as a salary to do the reshoots.
Which, I mean, I understand, but I wouldn't have paid Mark Wahlberg that amount of money to be in it to begin with. So
nope. I'd have been like, there are so many other white actors I could get for this.
I would have. You pick some dude off the street, and I'd have believed him more than Mark Wahlberg in it.
But enough Mark Wahlberg hate.
I know. I could go all night, Cody.
The other crazy choice I have is Legend. I think Legend should be in there.
Legend, yeah. Legend's pretty good.
Just for the production design alone. And Tim Curry.
Tim Curry.
Yeah, I know some people are like, ooh, Tom Cruise is not good. Yeah, Tom Cruise is miscast in this, but this is also young Tom Cruise.
Don't you get me started, because any movie that has Tom Cruise in it would be fine if you took him out of it and the supporting cast keeps all those movies going. That's my theory on all Tom Cruise movies. So same with Legend. You could, the rest of the cast, you put any other young, good-looking guy in that role at that time, would have worked great. Same, if not better.
So that is 5, 6. So we have 7.
We need top 10.
Yeah. So here's some we could probably debate about, but Black Hawk Down, I think, is a really well-made movie of its genre. I mean, it is a little rah America now watching it. But like I can see why this played really well after 9/11, and it is still really well directed and shot. It could use a little more interpretation from the other side.
Yeah.
So if that's an issue, that's one I could be like, it doesn't have to go in, but
I guess my other choice, I'll say Hannibal.
Really? Okay, that's, to me, that's more bananas than Legend.
Well, just looking at the choices of personal taste for me.
Okay.
I would go with Hannibal. It does go crazy bananas at one point, but it's fitting for the character.
Okay, so here are the other two I was thinking, and I'm willing to throw one out and put Hannibal in. I mean, So the other two I really wanted to, I think, should go in there is Kingdom of Heaven, especially if you've seen the director's cut,
Oh, yeah.
which is almost a whole different movie.
Mm-hmm.
You even get a whole stuff with Eva Green and Eva Green having a kid, and like that goes all more into that. And I think it's just a really thoughtful, meditative. This is actually a movie that does show both sides of the story,
Yeah.
and
I
doesn't
forgot
really
about Kingdom of Heaven.
portray villains. Doesn't portray either side as like good or bad,
Mm-hmm.
which I appreciate. The other one I was gonna say is The Last Duel. I think it's really well done, but I can throw that one out too.
I still have not watched The Last Duel yet. Everyone I know who has watched it, whose opinion I trust, no, not good. Like miscast overall.
Well, now that is one I could say maybe Matt Damon was miscast, but Matt Damon also wrote part of the screenplay.
Well, he can write a screenplay if he wants to, but he cannot do a period piece, and we already knew that going in with Matt Damon.
Adam Driver and Jodie Comer are both great in it, and surprisingly, Ben Affleck is good in it.
Ben Affleck can do a period piece. He's not great at it, but he can do it. He was good in Shakespeare in Love.
He's basically playing a version of himself in medieval times. He's basically the good-looking, I'm an F-boy with money, and I don't...
Yeah. He knows the character. It's easy to do. Matt Damon, no, we can't.
So I'm willing to throw The Last Duel out.
I would still pick Hannibal over The Last Duel, even though I haven't seen The Last Duel.
Another two people like is Matchstick Man and American Gangster. Which to me, I remember
liking Matchstick Men. It has been a very long time since I've seen Matchstick Men.
Matchstick Man is very charming. It's, of course, Nicolas Cage being Nicolas Cage. Mm-hmm. But you got Sam Rockwell.
And I think that's why I liked it, because I really like Sam Rockwell.
Yeah. And Alison Lohman, who was in a couple of really good things and then disappeared. It's just a really fun...
disappeared, yeah.
A really fun con man caper movie. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people really love American Gangster, but it just doesn't feel like a Ridley Scott movie to me. Like, it feels like something his brother would have done. It's good. It's Denzel. It's Russell Crowe. But and I know it's based on a true story. Mm-hmm. It's kind of big in the hip-hop culture.
Yeah, it was one of those things, like, I remember not seeing it, because I felt like, I didn't want to see a repeat performance of what Denzel did for Training Day.
It's not quite the Training Day, because it's not over the top. He's actually less evil in this than he is in Training Day, even though he's playing a drug dealer.
Well, from the trailers, at least when it came out, it seemed very like a very similar story arc. Very similar performance style.
It was originally going to be the director of Training Day.
That's right,
that was going to do the movie, because like Denzel ended up getting paid $40 million over the movie because he got 20 before and 20 for this one. Mm. But I don't think it should go in the Hall of Fame, because like I said, it just doesn't feel like a Ridley Scott movie, even though it has Russell Crowe in it. And that's actually part of my issue. I would have preferred if it was just more about Denzel's character than the side to side of the cop that got him.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've seen this movie so many times, the cop and the criminal. And
yes, like I can't imagine that this is the fresh take on that story that we have to watch and have to see. That's why I never watched it.
Yeah. So, okay, you know what? It is Banana Pants. You haven't seen it, but I understand like the issues people do have with The Last Duel, even though I do think it's really well done, especially in its kind of 3-act structure of the points of views. But yeah, I will throw The Last Duel out for Hannibal. So the next question is do we want to keep Black Hawk Down in, or do we want to put something else in Black Hawk Down's place?
I'm looking through the list. of options. Okay, so wait, go through what's solidified in there. So we've got
We got Alien. We've got
Alien,
Blade Runner, even though
Blade
you're
Runner.
like, yeah, but you understand why it's
I
got to be in there.
understand people love Blade Runner.
We've got Legend because I'm a crazy person and think that
Mhm.
movie's rad. We got Thelma and Louise because
Thelma and Louise.
it's great.
Mhm.
We've got Gladiator because it's the big one for him.
Mhm.
So that's 5. We've got Hannibal, which is 6. We currently have Black Hawk Down in there, Kingdom of Heaven, Prometheus, and The Martian.
Ooh. Okay, hear me out.
Because Black Hawk Down was the one I would take out for something else.
Maybe switch Black Hawk Down with G.I. Jane. Because G.I. Jane at the time was more groundbreaking of a movie than Black Hawk Down.
I don't think it's aged well, but I'm fine with it.
But has Black Hawk Down either?
Nope, neither. I just think it's overall a little bit better directed, but that's fine. They're both Jerry Bruckheimer big military movies with the American flag and helicopters. And
yeah. So, I just say, like, let's let this be like another, like, let's put another female lead movie in there.
I'm okay with it. It's fine because you let me keep Blade Runner and Legend and Kingdom of Heaven. Because I think Kingdom of Heaven is really underrated in his body of work. Of course, the theatrical cut is like 2 hours and 15 minutes, and the director's cut is like close to 4 hours. It even has like an overture and an intermission. And I think people were like, oh, this Orlando Bloom. But like, it's like, yeah, Orlando Bloom's not a great lead, but like the story and all the supporting actors in the movie, like, you know, talking about a bland white guy, but all the supporting cast is interesting. Because it's Jeremy Irons, it's Liam Neeson, it's Edward Norton, it's Brendan Gleeson, Eva Green,
it's
David
got a really good cast. I'll say, like, Ridley Scott usually picks a great cast. I just wish he would choose to do more with them. You know what I mean? Because there are some directors who will cast things really well, and then it feels like they do that so they have to do less work. So then actors do like them more because they're not being micromanaged to a certain extent.
And I don't know if you've seen this one, but there are some people that really love his first movie, The Duelist.
I've never seen that one.
It's a beautiful looking movie and it's well done, but I never really got why these guys dueled for so long because like it's over something really dumb.
Is it like a Barry Lyndon kind of like really long weird drama that ends in a duel that nobody knows why?
It is Barry Lyndon-esque, but not as long as Barry Lyndon, and neither Harvey Keitel or David Carradine, Keith Carradine. Sorry, wrong Carradine.
Wrong Carradine.
Neither of them are as fun, even though Ryan O'Neal's not a great actor. He's fun in Barry Lyndon.
I watched that in spite of Ryan O'Neal, but then I also fell asleep watching it.
Well, I mean, it's a long movie, and it's the whole Kubrick thing, but I think it's one of the most beautiful looking movies ever made. I just recently watched it a couple of months ago, so I was kind of vibing on it, but I can get it. So, okay, so our Hall of Fame, some people are probably going to be screaming at us, but you know what?
They weren't on this episode to do it.
That's right. That's courtesy of being on the last episode. You get to shape the Hall of Fame. So we got Alien, Blade Runner, Legend, Thelma and Louise, G.I. Jane, Gladiator, Hannibal, Kingdom of Heaven, Prometheus, and The Martian.
A nice like female empowerment sci-fi theme throughout, and with some crazy flesh eating in the middle.
Well, and even Hannibal's got Julianne Moore coming in as Clarice
True.
Starling.
Which
So
is
yeah.
yeah. Which is why I was so disappointed with the Lady Gaga character. That could have he could have had her go a little bit harder with it than she did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame, and I guess that's why, he does so many his product of so many movies, except
Mhm.
Spielberg seems to do a better job at this when he makes multiple movies, but
Yeah.
that's a different level. I think Ridley Scott is, even though most of his movies have a visual flair and you can tell I feel like him and Clint Eastwood are kind of on par with, like, you're not sure the quality is gonna be when they make
Yeah.
a movie.
Well, I would put a little more faith in Ridley Scott than Clint Eastwood at this
Well,
point.
I would too, because at least Ridley Scott will probably do at least more than one take.
Well, I don't know because he has all the cameras he doesn't usually do.
Well, he would probably notice and care if there was a Starbucks cup in the shot.
True. True.
But I doubt Ridley Scott speaks as softly when he is ready to shoot the scene as Clint Eastwood, because Clint Eastwood apparently talks like he's talking to horses. Even
that
if,
low
because Tom
grumble.
Hanks talked about it in Sully, and he was like, "Well, if you yell action, the horses are going to run away." And Tom Hanks is like, "There are no horses in this movie." Force a habit, I guess, from being in so many westerns. But an unusual Hall of Fame, but you know what? It's a very versatile list, just like his filmography. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate Hannibal G.I. Jane in here, and yeah, you make a good point. Black Hawk Down probably is just as cringy in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
Is it
And
maybe a little?
I think people still end up talking about G.I. Jane more as just a thing of pop culture phenomenon than Black Hawk Down, I think.
Yeah, you're
I
probably
mean,
right.
we referenced G.I. Jane at the most recent Oscars. Not in a great way, but we're still in the realm of pop culture, what,
Yeah, I don't
30
want
something
to.
years later?
I don't want to take sides on anything, but I'll just say, Chris Rock, that was a bad joke.
It
Not
was a
just
bad joke, yeah.
not just on playing with someone's health issues, but also, come on, dude, that's a movie's 25 years
Yeah.
old. Who's getting that joke?
But people are still talking about G.I. Jane, therefore it makes the list.
It makes the list. And you know what? There are Hannibal defenders out there. I'm one of them, even though it's nowhere near as good as Silence of the Lambs or even
Oh
Michael
no.
Mann's Manhunter. But I tell you what, I would watch Ridley Scott's Hannibal 90 times over Brett Ratner's Red Dragon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100% agree on that. I love the crazy train that is Hannibal a little bit. Like I learned a lot in that movie.
Well, just read the book. It's even more Crazy Train.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can yell at us later if you watch this on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter and yell at us why we forgot the excellence of The Last Duel or American Gangster. But this is it. This is what we wanted. So we gotta make choices.
Choices
But thanks
were
for
made.
playing along and not just being like, okay, Cody, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I'm up for a debate, even though I did not prepare for one.
No, it's okay. I was hoping Chris would join in to help shape it, but that's okay.
We may make like a little sub video to attach to this where Chris is like, here's why they're wrong. And
yeah. But then he'll be like, yeah, because he did not. I think he disliked G.I. Jane the most out of all of us because
I
of
mean,
the stuff in
I'll
it.
say it's been a long time, but like the problems that I remember being like poignant problems, like for a woman in military service, I think are still current problems for women in the military. So,
well, I mean, you're getting so many movies and dramas and things. It's like, well, I guess this is still a friggin' issue.
yeah. There's like some stuff like, oh, we told you the problem 30 years ago. You've done nothing about it. Literally nothing.
Well, when we talked about Thelma and Louise, we were like, why did it take like almost 30 years before we got more movies like this again? Like,
Yeah.
why? Like, that was a popular movie. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's another one people talk about pop culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things like you could tell they did it just to get women in the movies to watch that story, and like nobody cared about doing anything else other than that at the time, you know.
Yeah. Well, this is the list. Thank you for coming on. I'm sorry the movie was kind of very vanilla and bland.
Yeah. I don't promote Ryan Murphy necessarily because he is problematic in his own ways, but we should have just watched the Versace miniseries.
He's very hot and cold for me
Yeah.
personally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't get into American Horror Story no matter how many times I try to watch it, but I love The People versus OJ. Like,
It
that
was so
was,
good. Yeah.
yeah. So, like, yeah, some things, and then, you know, I liked Glee for the first few seasons, and then I was
Mm-hmm.
like, this.
Glee's I've heard one of those, like if you go back and rewatch it all, it's even worse than you remembered.
I hate when those
I
things
know.
happen.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, he's problematic in his own way, but he tells an entertaining story.
Well, thank you for coming on. Again,
Thank
I
you for having
apologize
me.
for the movie, but, you know, we got a fun, lively, arguably internet mad list, but here it is. If you have to work the rest of the week, don't work too hard and have a safe and happy holiday season. And have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. You enjoy the rest of your night.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.